guys, this is your girl Ashari. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have something amazing in store for you. Before I go on, I want to say thank you to all my amazing subscribers. You guys have been so supportive, so kind. Some of you have emailed me on topics that you want me to talk about, and today I'm going to be talking on one of those topics that you asked about. I hope you've all been doing well. We're into 2021. It's already a crazy start to the year, but we can do it, right? We can do it. So stay motivated, stay encouraged, and let us get into this video. You may hear my daughter in the background every now and then because she's home. And yeah, you know it is when we have kids home, all right? So today I want to talk to you about 5 things to know about purchasing a home in Jamaica. And these 5 things are things that you would just not know off the bat if you are purchasing a home for the first time. I've made my share of mistakes when we purchased our first home, and these are things that we learned, and I'm trying to help you to save time, energy, and resources from making those same mistakes that I made. If you've not yet seen my other videos on home renovation or open market house, you can check that out. And also the tips that I gave on how to purchase a home in Jamaica. So let's jump into these 5 tips that you would not know. So on number one, use the same lawyer as the seller. No, I did not know that when I was purchasing my home. So we went ahead and got our own attorney. And something I want you to remember is when you get your own attorney, most attorneys charge you 2 to 3% of the cost of the house. All right, the house is selling for. So if the house is selling for $10 million, yes, you will have to pay 2 or 3%, which is like $300,000 in legal fees. And to be honest, I don't think they do that much, but it's just what the process is in Jamaica. But if you choose to partner up with the lawyer that the seller is using, then you only pay most lawyers are fair enough to allow you to still pay that 3%, but it's split across the board between you and the seller, right? So that's my recommendation, something that I learned along the line, way after I ended up wasting 300,000, close enough to that, right? So that's something to know. So that's number 1. Use the same lawyer as the seller. This happens a lot. Do not include your deposit in the loan amount. If you do not have the deposit on hand, if you cannot borrow it from a family member, and if you don't have it in your savings, then I would recommend not taking the deposit in the loan amount. This adds way more interest and it lengthens your loan term. Do you hear me? A lot of people make this mistake. I've worked in the bank for 4 to 5 years, and I've seen how this can actually be the difference between you getting a monthly payment that's manageable for you and having one way over the head. Because a deposit on a house, let's use the example, $10 million for a house. You're paying 10% down for a deposit. You're looking at $1 million up front. Think about $1 million plus the interest that you're going to pay on that, added to the overall loan amount. No. So I would recommend, if you do not have that deposit upfront at 10%, then you can't borrow it from a family member. Your spouse can help you with that. Then you should just hold on until you can save that amount. But do not include it in the loan amount. It's way too costly, and it ends up pushing you back way longer in terms of your loan term, thereby paying way more interest, right? So that's number 2. So say number 1. Number 1, use the same lawyer as the seller if you have that option. And number 2, do not combine the deposit into the loan amount. I would recommend, and this is something that I found out along the way, open market houses are way more flexible than the houses that we see advertised by NHD, and those houses that you see, that are being built, what Jamaicans would call a scheme house. And the reason why I said that is you get to negotiate with the seller. Open market house, let's just say, example, Ebony Vale or any other. Yeah, let's use Ebony Vale since that's one that I know. You can say to the seller, look, I know you're selling the house for $10 million. I only have I only can afford $8 million. Can you come down to what I can afford? In most cases, the open market houses will, sellers will be flexible to come down to the amount that you can afford, especially if the house has been on the market for a long time. So what I normally do is I check how long the house has been on the market, how many times the prices has dropped. Yes, that's also important. That way you will know how you can negotiate. If the house has been on the market for like only 3 months and the price has not dropped, then it's highly unlikely that the seller is going to want to drop the cost of the house immediately. So you can always check back on that house or on that lot. But if it has been on the market for over a year, going 2 years, I'm sure that seller wants to sell, and they will be open to negotiating the cost that they're actually selling the house for. So I always say, if you're a person who loves schemos, then that's fine. But if you're someone who just needs a home, one that has space and is flexible for you to renovate it into your dream home, then go ahead and think about purchasing an open market house that you can negotiate the price on. It's way more flexible, and most times the sellers are even way more human than the banks are. This is very important. So VMBs and NHD, the interest parity between both is extremely low. What do I mean? So if you are so tied up on getting your house from NHD because you've thrown your contribution, so you want to go through NHD, but it's just having a lot of rigmarole, you can actually think about going through VMBs. VMBs and NHD has a platform that you can actually take your contributions from NHD, but all of that is done through the Victoria Mutual platform without you having to be between two institutions. Because back then when I was in the bank, one of the drawback is that most persons had to be going to NHD to get their approval, how much they were approved for, and then they're going back to the credit union to figure this out and figure that out. It was really time consuming, and then at the end of the day having waste 2-3 months trying to figure that process out, then to be told that, oh, sorry, you're not qualified. But Victoria Mutual, on the other hand, has this platform that allows you to get everything done in their branch than having to be going back and forth to VMBS. Another thing is, if you just can't be bothered with the VMBS process, the interest parity between VMBS and what NHT actually offers is extremely low. So let's say your interest rate at NHT was like 6%, then VMBS is usually like 7% or sometimes even less. So the parity or the variance between both the interest rate is extremely low. So why stress yourself over like less than a 1% interest when VMBS allows you to work from, whether you're overseas and you need to purchase the house, you don't have to be in the bank. NHD requires that you're going to be in person there to do all of this, and the process is really tedious. Sorry, I'm not a fan of NHD. So yes, so that's something to keep in the back of your mind, that the interest rate between them, that's VMBS and NHD, is not so wide. So don't stress yourself over that. To be aware of the closing costs, because a lot of people tend to forget about that, but the closing costs can be included in the cost of and I'm going to tell you why, can be included in the cost that the property is being sold for. So let's just say you totally forgot about the closing costs, and you've managed to come up with the deposit, and you've also managed to come up with the other expenses and fees that you will have to fund during the process for the loan, but you totally forgot about the closing costs. The seller can always include this in the overall cost of the loan, so that it is processed in that amount, so you don't have to say, oh my god, what is going to happen now. So it's not only in Jamaica, even here in the States, you realize that a lot of sellers actually just offset that amount because they really want to get the house going. So what is a house that is being sold for 10 million and it's almost through, but because the person can't find that 5%, you're like, oh no, I'm sorry. A lot of the sellers really don't care. They're like, you know what, just go ahead with that. I'm more grateful for the 10 million that I'm gonna get than the 500,000 that's gonna be held up, right? So this is something for you to always look in. You can ask the question to the seller: is the closing cost flexible? Do you guys help to take care of this? Because sometimes the sellers do. So don't assume that the closing cost is not sometimes offset by the seller. So these are questions that you should actually ask when you're purchasing a home in Jamaica. So let's run through those 5 tips. I promise I was not going to be long. So number 1 is use the same lawyer as the seller if you can. Number 2, do not include a deposit in the loan amount that you're taking from the bank. NHT will not include it automatically, but some banks give you the opportunity to. If they offer that, tell them no. And then 3, open market houses are way more flexible and way more easier for you to handle and do negotiations with the seller to get the price down to what you want it to be. And never ever just go for the first whatever the seller is selling for. There's always room for negotiation. And 4, NHT and VMBs, their interest parity is extremely low. So if you don't qualify for NHT, then you can still own a home. You can check VMBs out. I'm not working with VMBs. This is not a paid advertisement. So you need to know that. And 5, the closing cost, if you did not account for that, it can be included in the cost of the house. And you can also check with the seller to see if this is something that they will offset for you, because most sellers and some sellers actually do. All right, so until next time, this is your Jamaican girl Oshari. If there's any other topics that you want to hear me speak on and share my experiences, then you can just hop into my email. I'm going to be pinning it there and in the description, and let me know. I'll be happy to share some gems with you. Until next time, stay safe, walk good. Remember, COVID is still out, so wash your hands, social distance, and stay safe. Until next time, bye bye.